Hi, I'm Jennifer Nielsen. I'm the New York Times bestselling author of the Ascendance trilogy, and today I'm going to give you my top 5 tips for getting published. Tip number 1 is you need to read everything, because every great writer I know is also a great reader. And not being a reader is sort of like a rock star who can't tell you who any of the big bands are. So you gotta be a reader, and you'd be surprised how many aspiring authors think they don't need to read a book in order to get themselves published. It's not true. Read everything you can in every genre you can and as often as you can. Tip number 2, you need to know the industry. Because even though writing is a creative thing, getting published is a business thing. And you need to know the business side of what we are doing. You want to understand rights before you're offered what rights you're willing to sell. You need to understand contract law, and you need to understand what publishers are looking for and how they hope to turn a profit from your writing. Tip number 3 is you need to write something amazing. And I know that seems obvious, but the reality is you're never going to sell something you don't actually write. And every year, agents and publishers get tons of queries from authors who have big promises and big dreams, but never actually manage to finish their book. If you want to just be a so-so author with a mid-level career, then it's okay to write something as good as whatever else is out there. But if you want to make a huge splash in the publishing industry, then write something amazing. Tip number 4, it's time to start querying. A query letter is a one-page paper. It says, here's a little bit about me and here's a little bit about my writing. Would you be interested in seeing more? And it might go to an agent if you want the big houses in New York, or if you're going for a smaller house, it can go directly to an editor. And it's sort of like just wedging your toe in the door of the industry and saying, hey, are you willing to let the rest of me come in? And once you've written that amazing book, the next step is to write a letter that is so excellent that they are taking your hand and saying, yes, come on in, we want to meet the rest of you. Tip number 5 is going to be the most important, which is this: never give up. The reality is there are many, many more authors and query letters that come into the industry than ever there are slots of books that can be published. If you fail, that's okay. You get better and you try again. If I had given up, I never would be here today. So every time you fail, you pick yourself up, you write better, and you query again. My name is Jennifer Nielsen. I am the New York Times bestselling author of the Ascendance trilogy, which includes The False Prince. I first became interested in becoming an author when I was in 6th grade. But like many childhood ideas, that kind of went by the wayside. I returned to it again as an adult. And I was reading the books that other authors had written, and it occurred to me one day that I think I could do this. And so I started writing my own manuscript. It was terrible. And as I queried it, I just hit failure after failure after failure. And then I got better. And I started querying it, and I hit failure after failure after failure. It took me about 10 years, and then I wrote a manuscript called Eliot and the Goblet War. That's the manuscript that got my toe in the door. If I had one piece of advice for anyone who's trying to get published, it's this: figure out your very favorite book, the one that you think about even when you're not reading, the one that you want to read over and over again. Get a copy of it along with a highlighter and a pen, and start going through that book and just marking it up like you would a textbook. Figure out, how did the author do the emotion? How did they handle their characterization, their dialogue, their setting? And underline and highlight everything you can. And as soon as you understand why that author made their book work, you will know exactly what you want to put into yours to make it work.